My husband abandoned me pregnant. Now he wants forgiveness, but it's too late. It happened 3 months ago. 3 long, agonizing months since Ryan walked out without so much as a goodbye. No note, no explanation, just silence. One minute he was packing his suitcase, muttering something about needing space, and the next, he was gone. Just like that. Like flicking off a light switch. But here's the kicker. I didn't realize how bad things were until after he left. Looking back, the signs were everywhere. The late-night phone calls he'd take outside. The way he flinched whenever I mentioned our baby's name. Hell, even the fact that he stopped holding my hand when we watched TV together felt significant. Now. But denial has a funny way of clouding your judgment, doesn't it? Still, none of that prepared me for the letter. It arrived on a Tuesday morning, slipped under the front door while I was busy scrubbing breakfast dishes. At first glance, it seemed harmless enough. A plain white envelope with my name scrawled. Across the front in handwriting I recognized all too well. My stomach twisted as I picked it up, dread pooling in my gut. I already knew who it was from before I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. His words stared back at me, stark and unapologetic. Emily, I can't do this anymore. This life, it's not what I signed up for. I need to figure out who I am again. Please don't try to find me. Ryan. That was it. No apology, no explanation, nothing. Just a cold clinical statement designed to rip my world apart. And oh, did it work. My knees buckled, and I collapsed onto the floor, clutching the letter like it might somehow change if I held it tight enough. How could he do this? How could he leave me? Not just me, but us. Our baby hadn't even been born yet, and already Ryan had abandoned them. Abandoned us both. Karen found me hours later, still sitting on the kitchen tiles, tears drying on my cheeks. She's my sister-in-law turned best friend. The kind of person who shows up with ice cream and wine regardless of whether you invite her or not. Today, she brought tacos instead. What the hell happened? She demanded, taking in the scene. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the fog of grief that had settled over me. Karen's never been one for sugarcoating anything. He left, I croaked, holding out the crumpled letter. He actually left. She snatched it from my hand, scanning the words quickly. When she finished, her face darkened. That selfish son of a bitch. I don't understand, I whispered, hugging my knees to my chest. What did I do wrong? Why would he just leave? You didn't do anything wrong, Karen snapped, tossing the letter onto the counter like it was toxic. This isn't about you, Em. It's about him. He's running scared because being a dad freaks him out. But what about me? I cried, gesturing wildly to my growing belly. What about the baby? Does he think they're just going to disappear if he ignores them? Karen sighed, kneeling beside me. No, he doesn't think that. He's probably hoping someone else will clean up his mess, namely you. Her bluntness stung, but deep down, I knew she was right. Ryan had always struggled with responsibility. Even before the pregnancy, he hated making big decisions. Now, faced with the enormity of fatherhood, he'd cracked, and instead of facing it head-on, he'd run. Weeks turned into months. Life became a blur of doctor's appointments, ultrasounds, and sleepless nights spent staring at the ceiling. Every day felt heavier than the last, like carrying around an invisible weight that only grew worse with time. Some days, I managed to convince myself I was fine, that I didn't need Ryan, that I could raise this baby on my own. Other days, I curled up in bed and let the tears come, wishing he'd walk through the door and tell me it was all some terrible mistake. Then came the voicemail. It was late one evening, and I'd just finished folding laundry, a task that somehow took twice as long these days. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, lighting up with Ryan's name. For a split second, my heart leapt. Maybe he changed his mind. Maybe he wanted to come home. But when I listened to the message, disappointment hit me like a freight train. Hey, Em, his voice said, hesitant and strained. I've been thinking a lot lately. About everything. Can we talk? I really need to explain what? That he'd made a mistake? That he missed me? That he suddenly realized parenthood wasn't so scary after all? Whatever it was, I didn't care. Not anymore. I deleted the message without responding. Things got worse before they got better. By month 4, I was drowning. Not just emotionally, but financially too. Ryan hadn't paid child support or alimony, leaving me to scrape by on freelance, design gigs, and the occasional help from Karen. Bills piled up faster than I could pay them, and stress gnawed at me constantly. One afternoon, Saren, the owner of the design firm where I worked part-time, pulled me aside during lunch. She leaned against her desk, arms crossed, her piercing green eyes studying me intently. You're killing yourself trying to keep up, she said bluntly. And don't give me that I'm fine crap. I see the bags under your eyes, Em. You look exhausted. I'm managing, I muttered, avoiding her gaze. Managing? Ha, barely surviving was more like it. No, you're not, she countered. Listen, I get it. You're stubborn as hell and you don't want anyone's pity, but pride won't pay your rent or feed your kid. Let me help you. Her offer caught me off guard. Sure, Saren and I had always gotten along well, but this level of concern felt personal, almost maternal. How? I asked cautiously. For starters, I'll bump you up to full-time hours, she replied, and I'll cover daycare costs until you're back on your feet. Consider it an investment in talent. Tears pricked my eyes, though I fought to hold them back. Why are you doing this? She shrugged, a small smile tugging at her lips. Because everyone deserves a second chance. Even people like you. Her words stayed with me long after our conversation ended. For the first time time in months, I allowed myself to feel something other than anger or despair. Gratitude, maybe. Hope, even. As spring rolled around, I started noticing subtle changes, not just in my body, but in my mindset too. Each kick from the baby reminded me why I couldn't give up. They depended on me, trusted me to fight for them, and slowly, painfully, I began to rebuild, one step at a time, until Ryan showed up on my doorstep one rainy April evening, drenched, disheveled, and desperate. "Emily," he breathed, his voice trembling. "Please, just hear me out." For a moment, I froze. Part of me wanted to slam the door in his face, to scream and yell and unleash every ounce of rage I'd bottled up inside. But another part, the calmer, stronger part, knew better. So I stepped aside and let him in. Not because I forgave him, but because I owed it to myself and my baby to hear what he had to say. The rain hammered against the windows as Ryan stood in my doorway, dripping water onto the hardwood floor. He looked different, thinner, maybe. His usually perfectly styled hair was plastered to his forehead, and there were dark circles under his eyes that hadn't been there before. Whatever he'd been doing these past 3 months, it clearly hadn't agreed with him. "Emily," he repeated, his voice cracking like brittle glass. "I know I don't deserve this, but please, just let me explain." For a moment, all I could do was stare at him. My heart pounded in my chest, torn between fury and curiosity. What could possibly justify what he'd done? Abandoning me. Abandoning us. Still, something about the raw desperation in his eyes made me hesitate. Maybe it was pity. Or maybe it was the lingering hope that somewhere deep down, the man I once loved still existed beneath the mess standing in front of me. "Fine," I said finally, stepping back to let him inside. "But you've got 5 minutes." He nodded, quickly, wiping his face with shaking hands as he stepped into the living room. I shut the door behind him, leaning against it for support. The weight of his presence filled the space immediately, suffocating and electric at the same time. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the same table where we used to share lazy Sunday mornings over pancakes and coffee. Now the silence between us felt heavier than lead. Ryan stared at his clasped hands, unable to meet my gaze. For someone who had begged to talk, he sure seemed reluctant to start. "Well," I prompted, crossing my arms over my belly protectively. "You wanted to explain yourself, so explain." Ryan flinched at the sharpness in my tone but didn't argue. Instead, he took a deep breath and began. "I fucked up, Emily. Big time." His voice wavered, and for a second, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "When you told me you were pregnant, I freaked out. Everything just hit me at once. All the responsibility, the pressure, the idea of being a dad. I wasn't ready for any of it. And instead of talking to you about how scared I was, I ran, because that's what cowards do." His words hung in the air, heavy and bitter. It wasn't exactly news. He'd already admitted as much in his letter, but hearing him say it aloud somehow made it worse, like reopening an old wound. "And now?" I asked coldly. "What changed your mind? Why come back now?" He hesitated, glancing toward my stomach before answering. "Because I realized I can't keep running. Every day I was gone, all I could think about was you and the baby. I missed you both so much it hurt. I thought leaving would make things easier, but it didn't. It made everything harder." "That's not my problem," I shot back, anger bubbling to the surface. "You chose to leave, Ryan. You chose to abandon us when we needed you most. Do you have any idea what it's been like for me? Struggling to pay bills, going to doctor's appointments alone, lying awake at night wondering if I'm strong enough to raise this baby by myself?" Tears welled in his eyes, but I refused to soften. Not yet. Not until he understood the full weight of what he'd done. "I know," he whispered, his voice breaking, "and I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you'll let me. Please, Em, give me another chance." Part of me wanted to believe him, to see the sincerity in his eyes and trust that he meant every word. But the other part, the smarter, angrier part, knew better. Trust wasn't something you could rebuild overnight, especially not after betrayal like this. "You think it's that simple?" I snapped, pushing away from the table. "That you can just waltz back into our lives and expect everything to go back to normal? Newsflash, Ryan, it doesn't work like that. I'm not asking for normal," he pleaded, reaching out to grab my hand. "I'm asking for a chance. Just one chance to prove I've changed." I yanked my hand away, glaring at him. "Changed? In 3 months? That's convenient timing, isn't it? Right when the baby's due, you suddenly decide you're ready to be a father? It's not like that," he insisted, his voice rising slightly. "Yes, the timing sucks. I get that. But I swear to God, Emily, I'm serious about fixing this. About us. There is no us anymore." I spat, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. "There hasn't been for months. You gave up that right the day you walked out." Ryan slumped back in his chair, defeated. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the steady patter of rain against the windows, filling the silence with its relentless rhythm. Later that night, after Ryan left, again, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying our conversation over and over in my head. Had I been too harsh? Too quick to dismiss him? Maybe. But forgiving him felt impossible, not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't risk getting hurt again. Not for myself, and definitely not for the baby. Still, his words lingered in my mind. "I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." Was it possible? Could someone really change that much in such a short amount of time? Or was he just saying what he thought I wanted to hear? By morning, I still didn't have answers. But one thing was clear. Ryan wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. Whether I liked it or not, he was determined to fight for us. And while part of me hated him for it, another part, a tiny, stubborn part, wondered if maybe, just maybe, he deserved a shot at redemption. Over the next next few weeks, Ryan became a constant presence in my life again. At first, it was small things. Texts, checking in on me, offers to help with groceries, even showing up uninvited to doctor's appointments. Each gesture chipped away at the walls I'd built around myself, forcing me to confront feelings I'd rather ignore. Karen noticed, of course. She always does. "Are you seriously considering letting him back in?" she demanded one evening, as we sat on my couch, sipping tea. Her tone was incredulous, bordering on angry. "I don't know," I admitted, twirling the bracelet on my wrist absent-mindedly. "He seems sincere, different even. But he broke your heart," Karen finished, her expression softening. "And you're scared he'll do it again." I nodded, tears prickling my eyes. "What if I give him another chance and he screws it up? What then?" Karen sighed, setting her mug down. "Look, Em, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I will say this. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. If you decide to let him back in, make sure he understands the stakes. This isn't just about you anymore. It's about your kid." Her words stayed with me long after she left. Forgiveness without forgetting. That was the key, wasn't it? Moving forward didn't mean erasing the past. It meant learning from it, growing stronger because of it. One afternoon, as I sat sketching designs for a new client project, my phone buzzed on the desk beside me. It was Ryan. "Can we meet? There's something important I need to show you." My stomach twisted. Important? What could he possibly have to show me now? Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him at the park near my house later that evening. When I arrived, he was waiting on a bench overlooking the lake, holding a large manila envelope. His expression was nervous but resolute, like he was bracing himself for rejection. "What's this?" I asked, gesturing to the envelope as I sat down beside him. "This," he said, handing it to me, "is why I came back." Inside were documents, pages upon pages detailing custody agreements, financial statements, and plans for shared parenting responsibilities. At the bottom of each page, his signature was already scrawled neatly in blue ink. "I've been working with a lawyer," he explained, watching me closely. "Figured if I couldn't earn your trust right away, at least I could prove I'm committed to being a part of this baby's life. Legally, emotionally, all of it." I stared at the papers, stunned. This wasn't just an apology, it was action. Proof that he was willing to put in the effort, no matter how hard it might be. "Why are you doing this?" I asked softly, looking up at him. "Really?" Ryan met my gaze, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "Because I love you, Emily, and I love this baby more than anything. I messed up, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life, but I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." For the first time in months, I believed him. The park smelled like freshly cut grass and damp earth, the remnants of yesterday's rain still clinging to the air. As I sat there on that bench beside Ryan, clutching the envelope full of promises written in ink, I felt something shift inside me, something fragile yet undeniable. Hope. It wasn't forgiveness, not entirely, but it was a start. Ryan watched me carefully, his hands folded tightly in his lap as if bracing for impact. For once, he didn't try to fill the silence with empty words or excuses. Maybe he finally understood that actions spoke louder than anything he could say. "I don't know what to do with this," I admitted after a long pause, gesturing to the papers. My voice trembled slightly, betraying the storm of emotions swirling beneath my calm exterior. "Part of me wants to believe you're serious about changing, but?" He prompted gently, leaning forward just enough to show he was listening. "But trust isn't something you can rebuild overnight," I finished, meeting his gaze head on. "You broke mine, Ryan, completely. And while these documents might prove you're willing to try, they don't erase the pain you caused." He nodded slowly, accepting my words without argument. "I get that. I messed up in ways I'll never be able to fix completely. All I'm asking for is a chance to show you I mean it, to prove that I've changed." His sincerity tugged at something deep within me, but I forced myself to stay grounded. Trust had to be earned, piece by painstaking piece. Still, I couldn't deny the spark of curiosity igniting in my chest. What if he really had changed? Could we find our way back to each other, not as who we were before, but as something new? Over the next few weeks, Ryan kept showing up, not in grand gestures, but in small, consistent ways. He helped carry groceries home from the store, showed up early to doctor's appointments, and even offered to assemble the crib Karen had bought me, though he ended up needing her help halfway through. Each act felt like a brick being laid in the shaky foundation of our relationship, a foundation neither of us knew would hold. One evening, as we sat together in my living room going over baby names, I caught him staring at my belly with an expression I hadn't seen in months. Awe. Pure, unfiltered awe. "What?" I asked, quirking an eyebrow. "Do I have salsa on my face or something?" He laughed softly, shaking his head. "No, it's just seeing you like this. Watching you grow into motherhood. It's incredible. I missed so much already, Em. I don't want to miss anymore." His words hit me like a punch to the gut, both sweet and painful at the same time. On one hand, I wanted to wrap myself in the warmth of his admiration. On the other, I resented him for making me feel guilty about wanting to protect myself and the baby from more heartbreak. "You can't just pick and choose when you want to show up," I said sharply, surprising even myself with the venom in my tone. "Being a parent isn't about convenience, Ryan. It's about commitment, sacrifice. Are you ready for that?" He flinched but didn't back down. "I am," he said firmly. "I've spent the last 3 months hating myself for leaving. Every night I thought about you and the baby, wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. Turns out, I did. But I'm here now, and I'm not running again." His conviction gave me pause. Was it possible he truly regretted everything? That maybe, just maybe, he deserved another shot? Karen remained skeptical. She had every right to be, of course. She'd been my rock during the darkest days of Ryan's absence, picking up the pieces when I couldn't face them alone. So naturally, she wasn't thrilled about his sudden reappearance in my life. "He's playing you, Em," she warned one afternoon as we sorted through baby clothes at her apartment. Her tone was sharp, almost accusatory, but her eyes betrayed her concern. Don't let him guilt trip you into forgiving him too soon. I'm not forgiving him, I replied defensively, folding a tiny onesie with more force than necessary. Not yet, anyway, but I owe it to myself and the baby to see if he's serious about sticking around. Karen sighed, tossing a pair of booties onto the growing pile. Just promise me you won't lose sight of what matters here. You're strong enough to raise this kid on your own if you have to. Don't settle for less than you deserve because you're scared of being alone. Her words stuck with me long after we parted ways. Scared of being alone. Was that why I was letting Ryan back in? Because deep down I feared facing parenthood without him? Or was it something else entirely? A glimmer of hope that we could salvage what was left of us. By month 7, things between Ryan and me had reached a tentative equilibrium. We weren't exactly partners, but we weren't strangers either. Our interactions were careful, measured, like walking across thin ice. He came over regularly to help prepare the nursery, bringing takeout dinners and awkward jokes that somehow managed to make me laugh despite myself. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were moments, sharp, jagged moments, when the past reared its ugly head, like the time he absent-mindedly referred to the baby as mine instead of ours, sending me spiraling into a rage-fueled rant about ownership and responsibility. Or the day I found an old photo of us tucked away in a drawer, smiling like nothing could ever tear us apart. Seeing it brought tears to my eyes, not because I missed those days, but because I mourned the loss of the person I used to be before. Ryan shattered my trust. Through it all, though, Ryan remained patient. He listened when I needed to vent, apologized when he screwed up, and never pushed me to move faster than I was comfortable with. Slowly, painfully, the walls I'd built around myself began to crack. Then came the ultrasound appointment. It was supposed to be routine, a quick check to confirm the baby's position and ensure everything was progressing normally. But as the technician pressed the wand against my swollen belly, her expression shifted from professional detachment to something softer. Would you like to know the gender? She asked, glancing between Ryan and me. My heart skipped a beat. Up until now, I'd been adamant about keeping it a surprise, but something about having Ryan there made me hesitate. Maybe it was the look of quiet anticipation on his face, or maybe it was the realization that regardless of our fractured history, we were about to become parents together. Yes, I said finally, gripping Ryan's hand tightly. Let's hear it. The technician smiled, pointing to the screen. Congratulations, you're having a girl, a daughter. The weight of those words hit me like a tidal wave, sweeping away any lingering doubts or fears. Suddenly, everything felt real in a way it hadn't before. This tiny human growing inside me wasn't just an abstract concept anymore. She was someone I would hold, nurture, and love for the rest of my life. Beside me, Ryan squeezed my hand, his eyes shining with unshed tears. A girl, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. We're having a girl. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to imagine a future where Ryan played an active role in our daughter's life, where we worked together, not as perfect partners, but as flawed individuals determined to give her the best possible start in life. Still, shadows lingered. Old wounds refused to heal completely, no matter how hard we tried. One evening, as Ryan packed up his things after helping me paint the nursery, I noticed him lingering by the door, his expression hesitant. There's something else I need to tell you, he said quietly, avoiding my gaze. My stomach tightened. Whatever it was, it couldn't be good. What is it? He took a deep breath, running a hand through his hair. Before I left, I wasn't just scared of being a dad. I was also, he trailed off, struggling to find the right words. Also what? I pressed, my patience wearing thin. Also seeing someone else, he admitted finally, his voice barely above a whisper. It didn't mean anything, I swear. Just one stupid night when I was angry and confused. I ended it before I came back to you. The room spun, and for a moment I thought I might vomit. Betrayal burned hot and fresh in my chest, threatening to undo all the progress we'd made. How dare he keep this from me? How dare he think I wouldn't care? When were you planning to tell me? I demanded, my voice shaking with fury. After she was born? Never? No, he exclaimed, stepping closer. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I was afraid you'd shut me out completely. Please, Em, you have to believe me. It was a mistake. A terrible, selfish mistake. Tears streamed down my face as I stared at him, torn between anger and disbelief. Could I forgive him for this? Did I even want to try? The nursery smelled like fresh paint and lavender-scented candles, a soothing blend that did nothing to calm the storm raging inside me. I stood in the center of the room, arms crossed tightly over my chest, staring at Ryan as if trying to decipher some hidden truth etched into his face. His confession hung heavy in the air between us, ugly, raw, and impossible to ignore. A mistake? I repeated, my voice trembling with barely contained rage. That's what you call it? Sneaking around behind my back while I was pregnant with your child? Ryan winced, guilt flashing across his features. I know it sounds bad, he said quickly, his hands raised in surrender. But it wasn't like that, Em. I wasn't thinking straight. I was scared, lost. I made a choice I regret every single day. Scared? I spat, taking a step toward him. You think fear excuses cheating? Do you have any idea how much you've hurt? Me? Twice now? He opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. What could he possibly say to justify what he'd done. There was no excuse for betrayal. Not once, not ever. And yet, here he was, standing in front of me, begging for forgiveness, all over again. That night, sleep eluded me. Every time I closed my eyes, images of Ryan with someone else invaded my mind. Who was she? Did they laugh together the way we used to? Did he hold her hand the same way he held mine during lazy Sunday mornings? The questions tormented me, each one more painful than the last. By morning, exhaustion weighed on me like an anchor, dragging me deeper into despair. Part of me wanted to kick Ryan out of my life permanently, to cut him off completely and raise our daughter alone. But another part, the stubborn, hopeful part, clung to the progress we'd made. Could I really throw it all away because of one reckless night? Karen arrived unannounced the next afternoon, carrying 2 steaming cups of coffee and a look of determination that told me she already knew something was wrong. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. He told you, didn't he? She asked, setting the drinks on the counter. I nodded, tears welling in my eyes. How did you know? Because he's been carrying that secret around like a weight, she replied matter-of-factly. He mentioned it to me weeks ago when he first started trying to make things right. Said he didn't know how to tell you without ruining everything. And you didn't think to warn me? I demanded, anger flaring despite my fatigue. You let me trust him, knowing he'd betrayed me again? I wanted to, Karen admitted, her voice softening, but it wasn't my place. Besides, I thought maybe he deserved a chance to explain himself before you decided whether or not to forgive him. Her words struck a nerve. Wasn't that what I'd been doing all along? Giving Ryan chances to prove himself? Only now, the stakes felt higher than ever. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about our daughter. About creating a stable, loving environment for her to grow up in. Later that evening, I sat down with Ryan in the living room, determined to confront the issue head-on. The atmosphere was tense, charged with unspoken emotions that threatened to boil over at any moment. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked, breaking the silence. My tone was calmer than I expected, though my hands still trembled slightly. I was afraid, he admitted, meeting my gaze reluctantly. Afraid you'd hate me. Afraid you'd never let me near you or the baby again. I know I messed up, Em. I know. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it anyway, because I love you, both of you. His sincerity tugged at something deep within me, but I forced myself to stay grounded. Forgiveness wasn't a gift I could give lightly, especially not after everything we'd been through. You're asking me to trust you again, I said slowly, weighing each word carefully. But trust isn't something you can demand, Ryan. It's something you earn, piece by piece. I understand, he replied, nodding earnestly, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Therapy, counseling, whatever you need. Just give me a chance to show you I mean it. Over the next few weeks, Ryan followed through on his promise. He attended couples therapy sessions with me, worked tirelessly to rebuild my trust, and even reached out to Saren for advice on co-parenting strategies. Each effort chipped away at the resentment I'd harbored for so long, replacing it with cautious optimism. Still, doubts lingered. How could I be sure he wouldn't slip back into old habits? That this newfound commitment wasn't just temporary, remorse masquerading as change? One evening, as we sat together watching the sunset from the backyard, I finally voiced my fears. What happens if you leave again? I asked quietly, wrapping my arms around my swollen belly protectively. What happens if things get hard and you decide you can't handle it anymore? Ryan turned to face me, his expression serious but steady. Then you remind me why I stayed in the first place. Why I fought for us, for her. He gestured toward my stomach, his eyes shining with emotion. I won't lie, I'm scared too. Terrified, actually. But running away doesn't fix anything. Staying does. Being here, with you, with her, that's what matters most. His words resonated deeply, striking a chord I hadn't realized needed healing. Maybe forgiveness wasn't about forgetting the past entirely. Maybe it was about choosing to move forward despite it, trusting that people could grow and evolve, given enough time and effort. In the end, the decision wasn't easy. It took countless conversations, sleepless nights, and moments of doubt before I finally felt ready to take the leap. When Ryan proposed moving back in, not as a romantic partner, but as a co-parent committed to raising our daughter together, I agreed, cautiously, hesitantly, but wholeheartedly. It wasn't perfect. We argued, stumbled, and questioned our choices more times than I cared to count. But through it all, we remained steadfast in our commitment to our daughter, to giving her the best possible start in life, even if it meant navigating the messy complexities of our fractured relationship. As I lay in bed one night, listening to the soft hum of Ryan's breathing from the other side of the house, I allowed myself to imagine a future where we thrived, not as lovers, but as parents united by love for our child. A future where forgiveness didn't erase the past, but instead paved the way for something stronger, more resilient, and for the first time in months, I believed it was possible.